Right now, we're at the start of an AI revolution.
Now it is changing.
You might hear people talking about AI threatening to take over jobs, or doing stranger things like playing games like the board game Go or StarCraft 2. But most people think that the arts and creative fields are outside AI's capabilities. But this is up for debate. A method called style transfer, which usually entails taking the artistic style of a famous painter and transferring it onto a still image or even video, has been achieved. In the instances of still images, the AI managed to fool 39% of art historians.
Wow.
But what about creative AI doing something actually useful that could potentially save millions of dollars and improve an entire industry by leaps and bounds? Well, this is happening. AI's creativeness is now moving into the 3D visual arts, potentially revolutionizing video game production and graphics. In this video, we'll take a look at that and some other ways that the AI revolution is seeping into gaming.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
It's getting wicked out there. It's getting wicked. They're starting to play with other levels of reality.
Since Crysis in 2007, we haven't really seen a major step forward in the visual quality of games. Yes, they do look marginally better, but it hasn't been an incredible leap forward. This is about to change with something called real-time ray tracing. Ray tracing, without going into detail, simulates the way light reflects and interacts with surfaces in the real world. It does this by calculating the path that each ray of light would take in a scene. Ray tracing gives that element of realism that's missing from today's games. Current games fake the effect of light's behavior. Ray tracing simulates it. It's why Pixar movies look so different to a playable video game. So this sounds good, but the problem with ray tracing is that it's very computationally expensive. Traditionally, you'd need a big farm of graphics processors to produce results. It's definitely something suited to pre-rendered CGI movies and not real-time video games. This all changed with NVIDIA's RTX graphics card. With this, real-time ray tracing is now possible. This was achieved by specialized hardware tailored for AI, doing all of the heavy lifting. The hardware is called NGX, and it uses processors that are custom built for matrix multiplication, the mathematical heart and soul of modern AI. With this, the hardware-enabled AI learns how light should bounce and simulates this. It puts the paths of light where it thinks it should go. The result is a realistic, real-time image that for the first time comes down to the consumer level. In 2019, ray tracing was integrated into Unreal Engine, and now the technology can be used in very general cases. To highlight just how much of a difference ray tracing makes, here's a video by Digital Foundry showing Minecraft modded with ray tracing. Minecraft is probably one of the worst looking games graphics-wise, but with ray tracing, it actually looks pretty realistic.
Look at that. Architecture to a whole new level.
Here's some real-time ray tracing scenes of a BMW juxtaposed with the shot of a real BMW. And rounding up, here are some other general examples of ray tracing.
Wow, look at that. Even food. Look at the rendering of that. That is insane.
In the future,
anywhere you look
this kind of video game quality will become standard. AI is also being used to create more realistic smoke and fluid simulations without the heavy processing that goes with it. Not only this, but a research team at the University of Edinburgh developed a machine learning system that is trained by watching motion capture clips, showing various kinds of movement.
This is how it says, and even the elect
correspondingly then generates an animation. This can be anything from a jog to a run
to
hopping over an object.
To train our system, we first capture several long sequences of raw locomotion data at a variety of speeds, facing directions, and turning angles. We also capture motion of stepping, climbing, and running over obstacles placed in the capture studio. By giving as input the height of the terrain under the trajectory, our character can adapt to rough terrain, climbing, balancing, and jumping where required.
How it walks. Look at that.
Either using the gamepad or the environment, we can get the character to crouch or move under obstacles. It can additionally be forced into certain environments such that the desired motion is performed, as shown walking over this beam. In summary, we present a new method for character control using a face-function neural network
All they're
that
telling
can
us to
produce
do is where to
high-quality motion
go.
for complex control tasks
But
such
it's
as walking
adjusting
over rough
to the
terrain.
terrain.
It's fast, compact, stable, and can learn from a large amount of data.
Wow.
This takes the tedious work out of creating realistic movements for video game characters.
And here I was trying to get hired for a video
In a free
game.
market, whatever is cheaper, faster, and better will eventually become the standard. The same applies to the gaming industry. Let's start with game development. It's no secret that the cost of video games is going up. But why is this?
Because you got a
Once upon
lot more
time,
zombies
major
out
games could be
there.
made with a small number of people. This is because the assets or 3D components of the game were simple. As time went on, games strove to chase realism. As this happened, the components of the game became ever more complex. It's gotten to the point where it now takes a large team and the budget of a blockbuster movie to complete a major video game title. Andrew Price, a video game artist, conducted a talk at a Blender conference in 2018. In the talk, he produced a realistic estimate of how exactly things get so expensive. So one detailed 3D building can take 22 hours to create, 12 hours for the modeling stage, and another 10 hours for the texturing process. But the job is far from complete at this stage. There's usually a revision of 2 to 4 times depending on what's needed within the game's story. The end process can be 44 to 88 hours of work just for a single building within a game. At a wage of $60 per hour, the average cost of one building is around $4,000. When you add up
In
all
a
the
virtual
costs,
world?
it becomes comical. This single scene cost around $200,000. A full game would have no problem reaching the hundreds of millions of dollars
Look
mark
at that.
working
And
this
now
way.
they're putting our people outside
The
in the
expense
street.
is largely due to the process of designing the elements in the
That's
game.
how they planned it,
Currently,
people.
video game artists use a static flow. From the design of the element to the output, that is, the completed product, is a 1-to-1 ratio. To create a new 3D asset, be it a car or building, requires the designer to start almost completely from scratch. This is where AI comes in. AI, particularly neural networks, are suited to a kind of workflow called procedural content generation. This is basically where a neural network is trained to create realistic buildings, cars, or audio from vast volumes of data.
Which it
Over
already
time,
has
it learns what looks good and what's realistic. With procedural content generation, a game designer simply has to type in certain parameters, such as a building should be of a certain type, have X amount of windows, and be of a height within a certain range. Once given these parameters, the AI then generates a whole bunch of options, and the designer simply has to pick one with little or no modification. And this is where the advantage comes in. If another 3D asset is needed, instead of starting from scratch, the designer simply puts in the parameters and the AI generates it again. Countless hours are saved, even though to train the AI in the first place might take a while. The same process can be done for natural landscapes or even video game characters themselves.
And
To
it
top
was
things
given
off, what if an AI could create a
the
whole video
ability
game by
to
itself?
speak.
Well, of course, this has already been done. Just recently, researchers at Georgia Tech took things a step forward by using a general adversarial network, a type of neural network which we've covered extensively before on this channel. This network was deployed to invent new games. In their paper, they used video game levels from already developed games as inputs and then converted them into an output that lays out environments, objects, and rules for the new game. This particular system learnt from 2 games, Super Mario Bros. And Kirby's Adventure, and the output turned out to be a game similar to Mega Man.
conclusion.
So I think this video shines a light on a side of AI that isn't really talked about. AI being not only creative, but actually practically useful. Combining all of the elements that
Manipulating
you've
the
seen
mind.
here, it's clear to see that AI is going to have a drastic effect on the future of video games. They'll look better, be more realistic, and be much cheaper to produce. So which area are you most excited for? The possibility of the prices of games coming down, the games looking better, or the games being more realistic?
I'm
Let me
worried
know what you
about
think in the
people
comment
being
section below.
deceived of how easy it'll be
So that runs at the end of the video.
to lose
My goal
oneself.
with all this content on this channel is to bring something a little
There was that
different to you.
moment in Sixth Day when Arnold Schwarzenegger had to have
If
doubted
you want to
himself.
support this
Wait,
vision, feel
am
free
I
to
you or
subscribe to
you
this
or
channel
me?
and share this video to someone who will be
And
interested
I think
in the
that's
topic.
where
That
Scripture
really helps
enters,
me
where he
out.
says that
If you're looking for more, and want to be
God will have
surprised
to
with a variety
intercede,
of things that
otherwise
AI
man
will
would be
take
deceived.
you
Even the elect
and I'll leave a link to my
would be
blog
deceived.
compilation
So
video for you
I
to
think
have a
they're
look
going to shut
at.
us
It's
in
well
a
worth a watch.
spot
Yeah,
sometime
don't forget to
where
check out
we're
my
not even
Instagram.
going to
I'll
be
be more
sure what
active there.
reality is
Anyway,
anymore.
thanks for watching. This has been To Go Go.
Because now people are looking down
I'll see you again soon for the next video.
below their pants when they go to the bathroom, and they're wondering if they're male or female. And I understand that what's visually out there could be different than what they feel like inside, but they've been altering the inside for decades and centuries with pharmaceuticals and all these drugs. So nothing new under the sun is what Scripture says. And that's what we're getting out now, our word of the day. And we're decided we're going to Hosea, because I think the later letters are the ones that need to be spoken of, because they haven't been out. So we're going to go Hosea, and that's in the last after Daniel.
Believe it or not, this piece of white plastic will become a robot.
So these are the prophet books as well. But yeah, we're going to go to Hosea because it actually is a
We are creating advanced robots like this.
Hosea. Let me find my glasses, because we got to get our glasses as well.
Of a new species.
What has taken humans millennia?
Hosea.
Robots have achieved in just decades.
And their trusty cap
My new inheritance.
with their light.
Movies like this.
And now they're beginning to think like us.
Where is? There it is. Our cap.
I'm Dr. Ben Garrett, an evolutionary biologist. More than just
Man, they're light.
animals, I'm genuinely concerned about how quickly
It is pummeling outside. It's I think there's about 4 or 6 pieces of sky in Stafford all over again. They're just pounding out there. It's all that stuff they're spraying in the sky. They have that much control of where they can enhance it now. So we're in Hosea. And we thank you, Lord, for your word, and even for the testimonies of so much evidence of how you interceded in so many lives. Lord, give us a hunger for your truth and your truth alone, because everything else will fall, collapse. Give us understanding of your word, Lord, and you know where to meet us in our heart. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. The word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Beri, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and of Jeroboam, son of Joash, king of Israel. Let's see what's on here. So that's how I started off, right?
with 9 million robots.
When the Lord first spoke to Hosea, he said this to him: Go and marry a promiscuous wife and have children of promiscuity, for the whole land has been promiscuous by abandoning the Lord. You get that? So let me repeat that one. The word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Beri, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, times of the past, and of Jeroboam, son of Joash, king of Israel. When the Lord first spoke to Hosea, he said this to him: Go and marry a promiscuous wife and have children of promiscuity, for the whole land has been promiscuous by abandoning the Lord. So he went and married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. This woman had a name, and very few women are named in Scripture. Then the Lord said to him, "Name him Jezreel, for in a little while I will avenge the bloodshed of Jezreel on the house of Jehu and put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. On that day I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel." She conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. And the Lord said to him, "Name her No Compassion, for I will no longer have compassion on the house of Israel. I will certainly take them away, but I will have compassion on the house of Judah, and I will deliver them by the Lord their God. I will not deliver them by bow, sword, or war, or by horses and cavalry." After Gomer had weaned No Compassion, she conceived and gave birth to a son. Then the Lord said, "Name him Not My People, for you are not my people, and I will not be your God. Yet the number of the Israelites will be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or counted. And in the place where they were told, 'You are not my people,' they will be called sons of the living God. And the Judeans and the Israelites will be gathered together. They will appoint for themselves a single ruler and go up from the land, for the day of Jezreel will be great. Call your brothers, my people, and your sisters, compassion. Rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove the promiscuous look from her face and her adultery from between her breasts. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and expose her as she was on the day of her birth. I will make her like a desert and like a parched land, and I will let her die of thirst. I will have no compassion on her children, because they are the children of promiscuity. For their mother is promiscuous. She conceived them and acted shamefully, for she thought, 'I will go after my lovers, the men who give me my food and water, my wool and flax, my oil and drink. Therefore, this is what I will do. I will block her away with thorns. I will enclose her with a wall so that she cannot find her paths. She will pursue her lovers, but not catch them. She will seek them, but not find them. Then she will think, I will go back to my former husband, for then it was better for me than now. She does not recognize that it is I who gave her the grain, the new wine, and the oil. I lavished her silver and gold on her, which they used for Baal. Therefore I will take back my grain in its time and my new wine in its season. I will take away my wool and linen, which were to cover her nakedness. Now I will expose her shame in the sight of her lovers, and no one will rescue her from my hands. I will put an end to all her celebrations, her feasts, new moons and Sabbaths, all her festivals. I will devastate her vines and fig trees. She thinks that these are her wages that her lovers have given her. I will turn them into a thicket, and the wild animals will eat them. And I will punish her for the days of the Baals, when she burned incense to them, put her rings and jewelry, and went after her lovers, but forgot me. This is the Lord's declaration. Therefore, I am going to persuade her, lead her to the wilderness, and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her vineyards back to her, and make the valley of Achor into a gateway of hope. There she will respond as she did in the days of her youth, as in the day she came out of the land of Egypt. In that day, the Lord's declaration, you will call me husband, and no longer call me my Baal. For I will remove the names of the Baals from her mouth. They will no longer be remembered by their names. On that day I will make a covenant for them with the wild animals, the birds of the sky, and the creatures that crawl on the ground. I will shatter bow, sword, and weapons of war in the end, and will enable the people to rest securely. I will take you to be my wife forever. I will take you to be my wife in righteousness, justice, love, and compassion. I will take you to be my wife in faithfulness, and you will know the Lord. On that day I will respond, the Lord's declaration. I will respond to the sky, and it will respond to the earth. The earth will respond to the grain, the new wine, and the oil, and they will respond to Jezreel. I will sow her in the land for myself, and I will have compassion on no compassion. I will say to not my people, you are my people, and he will say, you are my God. Then the Lord said to me, go again, show love to a woman who is loved by another man and is an adulteress, just as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love raisin cakes. So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and 5 bushels of barley. I said to her, you must live with me many days. Don't be promiscuous or belong to any man, and I will act the same way toward you. For the Israelites must live many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred pillar, and without ephod or household idols. Afterwards, the people of Israel will return and seek the Lord, their God, and David, their king. They will come with awe to the Lord and to his goodness in the last days. Hear the word of the Lord, people of Israel, for the Lord has a case against the inhabitants of the land. There is no truth, no faithful love, and no knowledge of God in the land. Cursing, lying, murder, stealing, and adultery are rampant. One act of bloodshed follows another. For this reason, the land mourns, and everyone who lives in it languishes, along with the wild animals and the birds of the sky. Even the fish of the sea disappear. But let no one dispute, let no one argue, for my case is against you, priests. You will stumble by day. The prophet will also stumble with you by night, and I will destroy your mother. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge. I will reject you from serving me, from serving as my priests. Since you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your sons. The more they multiplied, the more they sinned against me. I will change their honor into disgrace. They feed on the sin of my people. They have an appetite for their transgressions. The same judgment will happen to both people and priests. I will punish them for their ways and repay them for their deeds. They will eat, but not be satisfied. They will be promiscuous, but not multiply, for they have abandoned their devotion to the Lord. Promiscuity, wine, and new wine take away one's understanding. My people consult their wooden idols and their divining rods. Inform them, for a spirit of promiscuity leads them astray. They act promiscuously in disobedience to their God. They sacrifice on the mountaintops, and they burn offerings on the hills and under oaks, poplars, and terebinths, because their shade is pleasant. And so your daughters act promiscuously, and your daughters-in-law commit adultery. I will not punish your daughters when they act promiscuously, or your daughters-in-law when they commit adultery. For the men themselves go off with prostitutes and make sacrifices with cult prostitutes. People without discernment are doomed. Israel, if you act promiscuously, don't let Judah become guilty. Do not go to Gilgal or make a pilgrimage to Beth Aven, and do not swear an oath as the Lord lives, for Israel is an obstinate as a stubborn cow. Can the Lord now shepherd them like a lamb in an open meadow? Ephraim is attached to idols, leave him alone. When their drinking is over, they turn to promiscuity. Israel's leaders fervently love disgrace. A wind with its wings will carry them off, and they will be ashamed of their sacrifices. Hear this, priests. Pay attention, house of Israel. Listen, royal house. For the judgment applies to you because you have been a snare at Mizpah and a net spread out on Tabor. Rebels are deeply involved in slaughter. I will be a punishment for all of them. I know Ephraim and Israel is not hidden from me. For now, Ephraim, you have acted promiscuously. Israel is defiled. Their actions do not allow them to return to their God, for a spirit of promiscuity is among them, and they do not know the Lord. Israel's arrogance testifies against them. Both Israel and Ephraim stumble because of their wickedness. Even Judah will stumble with them. They go with their flocks and herds to seek the Lord, but do not find him. He has withdrawn from them. They betrayed the Lord. Indeed, they gave birth to illegitimate children. Now the new moon will devour them along with their fields. Blow the horn in Gibeah, the trumpet in Ramah. Raise the war cry in Beth Aven or Beth Aven. After you, Benjamin, Ephraim will become a desolation on the day of punishment. I announce what is certain among the tribes of Israel. I'm missing a part of a page. The princes of Judah are like those who move boundary markers. I will pour out my fury on them like water. Ephraim is oppressed, crushed in judgment, for he is determined to follow what is worthless. So I am like rot to Ephraim, and like decay to the house of Judah. When Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah with his wound, Ephraim went to Assyria and sent a delegation to the great king, but he cannot cure you or heal your wound. For I am like a lion to Ephraim. Boy, my pages are all folded up. And like a lion to the house of Judah, yes, I will tear them to pieces and depart. I will carry them off, and no one can rescue them. I will depart and return to my place until they recognize their guilt and seek my face. They will search for me in their distress. Wow. Come, let us return to the Lord, for he has torn us, and he will heal us. He has wounded us, and he will bind up our wounds. He will revive us after 2 days, and on the 3rd day he will raise us up, so we can live in his presence. Let us strive to know the Lord. his appearance as sure as the dawn. He will come to us like the rain, like the spring waters that water the land. What am I going to do with you, Ephraim? What am I going to do with you, Judah? Your loyalty is like the morning mist and like the early dew that vanishes. This is why I have used the prophets to cut them down. I have killed them with the words of my mouth. My judgment strikes like lightning, for I desire loyalty and not sacrifice, the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. But they, like Adam, have violated the covenant. There, they have betrayed me. Gilead is a city of evildoers, tracked with bloody footprints, like robbers who wait in ambush for someone, a band of priests, murderers on the road to Shechem. They commit atrocities. I have seen something horrible in the house of Israel. Ephraim's promiscuity is there. Israel is defiled. A harvest is also appointed for you, Judah, when I return my people from captivity. When I heal Israel, the sins of Ephraim and the crimes of Samaria will be exposed, for they practice fraud. A thief breaks in, a gang pillages outside, but they never consider that I remember all their evil. Now their sins are all around them. They are right in front of my face. They please the king with their evil, the princes with their lies. All of them commit adultery. They are like an they're like an oven heated by a baker who stops stirring the fire from the kneading of the dough until it is leavened. On the day of our king, the princes are sick with the heat of wine. There is a conspiracy with traitors. Isn't that the truth? For their hearts, like an oven, draw him into their oven. Their anger smolders all night. In the morning it blazes like a flaming fire. All of them are as hot as an oven, and they consume their rulers. All their kings fall. Not one of them calls on me. Ephraim has allowed himself to get mixed up with the nations. Ephraim is in turn bread baked on a griddle. Foreigners consume his strength, but he does not notice. Even his hair is streaked with gray, but he does not notice. Israel's arrogance testifies against them, yet they do not return the Lord their God. Do not return to the Lord their God, and for all this they do not seek him. So Ephraim has become like a silly, senseless dove they call to Egypt, and they go to Assyria. As they are going, I will spread my net over them. I will bring them down like birds out of the sky. I will discipline them in accordance with the news that reaches their assembly. Woe to them, for they fled from me. Destruction to them, for they rebelled against me. Though I want to redeem them, they speak lies against me. They do not cry to me from their hearts. Rather, they wail on their beds. They slash themselves for grain and wine, then turn away from me. I trained and strengthened their arms, but they plot evil against me. They turn, but not to what is above. They are like a faulty bow. Their leaders will fall by the sword because of the cursing of their tongue. They will be ridiculed for this in the land of Egypt. Put the horn to your mouth. One like an eagle comes against the house of the Lord, because they transgress my covenant and rebel against my law. Israel cries out to me, my God, we know you. Israel has rejected what is good. An enemy will pursue him. They have installed kings, but not through me. They have appointed leaders, but without my approval. They make their silver and gold into idols for themselves, for their own destruction. Your calf idol is rejected, Samaria. My anger burns against them. How long will they be incapable of innocence? For this thing is from Israel. A craftsman made it, and it is not God. The calf of Samaria will be ashamed, will be smashed into bits. Indeed, they sow the wind and reap the whirlwind. There is no standing grain. What sprouts fails to yield flour. Even if they did, foreigners would swallow it up. Israel is swallowed up. Now they are among the nations like discarded pottery. For they have gone up to Assyria like a wild donkey, going off on its own. Ephraim has paid for love, even though they hire lovers among the nations. I will now round them up, and they will begin to decrease in number under the burden of the king and leaders. When Ephraim multiplied his altars for sin, they became his altars for sinning. Though I were to write out for him 10,000 points of my law, they would be regarded as something alien. Though they offer sacrificial gifts and eat the flesh, the Lord does not accept them. Now he will remember their guilt and punish their sins. They will return to Egypt. Israel has forgotten his maker and built palaces. Judah has also multiplied fortified cities. I will send fire on their cities, and it will consume their citadels. So we're at 14, so we're stopping at 7. And I think we went to 8. I got to go pick up something from a distance, but that was Hosea 1 through 8. Fantastic book. Says a whole lot for where our nation's at right now. But anyway, catch up later. Jesus is Lord. Life on stage. Awesome out. So kind of a bit of a different capture, but something worked. Blessings. Know that life is on stage and we have an audience of one that we're standing for. So what are we standing for? Awesome out. Life on stage.